The day had started like any other for Daniel, a single father juggling morning chaos with quiet grace. His 7-year-old daughter, Lily, was bouncing through the kitchen in mismatched socks, refusing to eat her eggs unless they were shaped like dinosaurs. Daniel, wearing yesterday's coffee-stained t-shirt and a tie that had seen better days, struggled to keep the small household from slipping into complete disorder. Being a single dad wasn't easy, but Daniel had accepted the role with a heart full of love and determination after his wife passed away 3 years ago. He worked long hours as a mechanic in a small garage on the outskirts of town and did his best to fill both parental roles for Lily. That morning, he dropped her off at school, kissed her forehead, and reminded her for the 100th time not to trade her healthy snacks for candy. Then he headed to work, unaware that his life was about to take an unexpected turn. Around mid-afternoon, while Daniel was fixing a busted radiator under the scorching sun, he noticed a woman sitting alone on a bench across the street. She looked out of place. Her designer coat was smeared with mud, her hair tangled from the wind, and her heels were clearly not made for the dusty sidewalks of the small town. She looked exhausted, almost on the verge of tears. Daniel wiped the grease from his hands and crossed the road, a bottle of water in hand. "Excuse me, miss, you okay?" he asked gently. The woman flinched slightly, as if pulled from a far-off place. I'm fine," she murmured, but her voice cracked. Daniel didn't push. He simply extended the water bottle and gave her a warm smile. "You look like you could use this." She hesitated before accepting it. "Thank you," she said, almost whispering. "Rough day?" he asked. "Rough week," she admitted. Her clothes, though high-end, were wrinkled, and her phone battery appeared to be dead. She seemed lost, physically and emotionally. Daniel didn't ask questions. Instead, he offered, "I run the garage over there. If you need to call someone or charge your phone, you're welcome to use the office." The woman paused, visibly torn, then nodded. "Thank you. That's really kind of you." In the office, she charged her phone in silence while Daniel continued his work. When she left an hour later, she offered him a soft thank you and walked away, not revealing her name, just a polite nod and eyes filled with unshed tears. Daniel thought he'd never see her again. But 3 days later, she returned. Her hair was brushed, her clothes neat, but she still wore a veil of sadness. She handed him a small box of pastries. "For your kindness," she said. "I didn't even thank you properly the other day." Daniel chuckled. "You didn't have to bring anything. I just did what anyone should have done." She smiled, but it was brief. "Not everyone would have," she said quietly. That day, she lingered longer. They talked. Her name was Emily, and she said she'd come to town to escape the noise of the city. She didn't elaborate, and Daniel didn't pry. Over the following weeks, Emily began stopping by more often. Sometimes she brought coffee, other times just conversation. Lily adored her immediately, drawn to her calm voice and the way she listened so intently. One rainy afternoon, Emily joined them for dinner at Daniel's modest home. She was warm, kind, and asked Lily about her school projects and favorite cartoons. It became a routine: dinners, walks, storytelling. Emily never spoke much about herself, and Daniel didn't want to make her uncomfortable. All he knew was that she was healing from something. And despite the mystery, Daniel found himself drawn to her strength, her empathy, her laughter. One evening, Emily confessed she was looking for a fresh start. She was tired of people treating her based on her last name, not who she truly was. "Sometimes," she said, "you have to disappear to be seen." Daniel understood that more than she realized. He had spent the past 3 years being invisible to the world, just another working-class single dad, barely making it. Yet, here in their little bubble, they found something rare: peace. Then, everything changed. One morning, Daniel awoke to dozens of news vans parked outside his garage. Reporters were shouting questions, camera flashes going off like fireworks. Confused and overwhelmed, he stepped outside, only to be bombarded with questions. "Daniel, how does it feel to be the man who helped Emily Caldwell disappear? Did you know she was a billionaire heiress? Were you hiding her?" Daniel's heart dropped. Emily, billionaire heiress? None of it made sense until he saw her. Emily stood beside a tall man in a suit, holding a press conference. She looked poised, different. She wore designer clothes again, makeup, heels. The woman beside him, the Emily he had come to care about, was now a headline. Emily Caldwell, sole heir to the Caldwell fortune and the recently resigned CEO of Caldwell Enterprises, had gone off the grid for 4 months. Her company believed she had suffered a breakdown. There were rumors of legal issues, boardroom betrayals, and family conflict. But now she was back, and the man who had unknowingly helped her hide was Daniel. Later that evening, as Daniel sat in his dimly lit living room, trying to explain to Lily why they were on TV, there was a knock at the door. Emily stood there, eyes glistening with tears. "I never meant to lie," she began. I needed to disappear. And I found you. And Lily. And I found something I never had before, real connection, real peace." Daniel was silent. His world had flipped upside down. "You could have told me," he said. "You didn't trust me?" "It wasn't about trust," she whispered. "It was about fear. I've spent my whole life surrounded by people who want something from me. But you didn't ask for anything. You gave, without expecting." Daniel looked at her, pain and love warring in his chest. "I'm not mad that you're rich, Emily. I'm mad that you thought I wouldn't accept you if I knew. We shared something real, didn't we?" She stepped closer. "Yes, we did. That's why I'm here now, not in a boardroom or behind a podium. I walked away from it all again. I want a life that matters. With you. With Lily. If you'll have me." There was a long pause before Daniel spoke again. "It was never about your name. It was about the way you looked at Lily, the way you helped wash dishes, the way you laughed at my terrible jokes. That's the Emily I fell for." And with that, he pulled her into an embrace, the kind that spoke of forgiveness, of possibility, of a future untainted by the past. The media circus died down eventually. Emily issued a final statement explaining that she was stepping away from the Caldwell name and starting a foundation focused on mental health and single-parent families. She used her wealth to quietly fund community projects, including renovating Daniel's garage and building a new library in Lily's school. She moved into their small home, choosing cozy over lavish, real over polished. For the first time, Daniel didn't feel invisible. And Emily, for the first time, felt truly seen. Their love wasn't a fairy tale. It was rooted in quiet moments, in scraped knees and bedtime stories, in late-night talks and Sunday morning pancakes. It wasn't the kind of story you read about in magazines, even though it did make headlines. It was something more. Real. Grounded. Beautiful. And it all started with one act of kindness from a man who had no idea that the woman he was helping was someone the world knew, but who desperately needed to be known in a different way. Not as a billionaire. Not as a CEO. Just as Emily. And for Daniel, the humble single dad with grease under his nails and love in his heart, that was more than enough.